natural things we see that pass away with the user. Eventually, look beyond the surface. When will you part at the curtains of your darkened minds to seek truth and righteousness? Cause we're running out of time. Floods, earthquakes, fires, droughts, and wars. AIDS, Ebola, West Nile, hepatitis, and SARS. Why no man take these things to heart? Cause the kings of the earth are mad and know not peace. Truth falls in the streets cause no one seeks beyond the surface. If you dare to be so bold, read about the God of Israel and the people he chose. All that glitters ain't gold. Look deep beyond the surface. Follow the light, it's worth it. It leads to something. Yahweh of hosts is his name. The source of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Yah.
2004, and we live in the age of modified monkeys, viruses that are created to kill, and mice which have human brain cells. Yes, I said human brain cells. A world where hereditary genes are obsolete, and alterations to DNA come as commonly as root canals at the local dentist office. A world where you might be eating genes from a fish as you take a spoonful of your freshly made strawberry shortcake. Doesn't sound too tasty, huh? Yes, it is the era of genetic engineering. Or better yet, scientists playing God, DNA and cloning. So don't worry if you seem to have gained a little weight, breasts are too big or too small, or even if your nose just don't seem to fit your face right. If you can afford it, they can fix it. But what is DNA and what purpose does it serve? Well, according to the New Encyclopedia Britannica, 15th edition, volume 4, DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is the organic chemical of complex molecular structure occurring in the cell nuclei as a constitute of chromosomes where it serves to encode genetic data. In other words, DNA contains the genetic makeup of an organism. Thus, it determines how a fruit would taste or smell, etc., whether an animal would have 2 legs instead of 4, and whether it would eat meat or herbs, etc., the skin complexion, height, and weight of a human, etc. The things that have been ordained by the Most High since creation. The very same thing that man purposely alters to appease the imagination of his own mind. But what does the Creator of all say pertaining to man changing his creation? Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 and 6. And Elohim saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Yahweh that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. This piece of scripture refers to the people just before the flood in the days of Noah. But since there is nothing new under the sun, we know the wickedness of man's heart and evil thoughts are repeating history today. We find in the book of Genesis, at the creation, that everything that Yahweh created that was to bring forth more life, he also created his creation with seeds in them that were after their own kind, so that whatever life that would be brought forth would also have the same DNA or the genetic makeup of that the Most High originally created in the first creation. Pertaining to the fruit and herbs, it reads, Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself, upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after his kind, and Elohim saw that it was good. Pertaining to the creatures that live in the water and the birds, it reads, Genesis chapter 1, verses 20 through 22. And Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that have life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And Elohim created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. Pertaining to the creatures that live on land, Genesis chapter 1, verses 24 through 25. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping things, and the beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And Elohim made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And finally, pertaining to the man, it reads, Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 31. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, and after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them, and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over everything that moveth upon the earth. And Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you shall it be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life. I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. But man doesn't take heed to the thing which the Most High have set forth. According to the Better Health Channel's website, genetic engineering broadens the scope to modify plants, and genetic modification of food is not new. For centuries, food, crops, and animals have been altered through selective breeding. While genes can be transferred through selective breeding, the scope for a change in genetic material is much wider using genetic engineering. In theory, genetic engineering allows genetic material to be transferred between an organism, including between plants and animals. A hypothetical example might be a gene from a fish that lives in very cold water being inserted into a strawberry so that it could survive the frost. Genetically modified foods are now possible by using biotechnology. Foods which have already been modified include maize, soybeans, oilseed rape, canola, chicory, squash, and potatoes. Gene therapy can be used to treat certain genetic conditions by introducing virus vectors that carry corrected copies of faulty genes into the cell of a host organism. Genes from different organisms that improve taste and nutritional value or provide resistance to particular type of disease can be used to genetically engineer food crops. They even go on to say the genetic material may be altered with methods that do not occur naturally. This is known as genetic engineering? So if it doesn't occur naturally, is it something good that is seen in the eyes of the Most High Yahweh? Traditional breeding can have the same effect, but over a much longer time span. Now selected individual genes are transferred from one organism to another. Moreover, the transferred gene may even come, as with genetically modified food, from non-related species. And what excuse does man use to do all of this? So the foods will be resistant to insects and viruses and more tolerable to herbicides. Just sounds like more money for them to me. Genetic engineering, just one of the many ways in which Lucifer is deceiving the inhabitants of this earth. And as Saul states in Romans chapter 21, verses 21 through 32, because that when they knew Elohim, they glorified him not as Elohim, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imagination, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the corruptible Elohim into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore Elohim also gave them up to uncleanliness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own body between themselves, who changed the truth of Elohim into a lie, and worship and serve the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause Elohim gave them up unto vile affection, and for even their women did change the natural use in that which is against nature, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of woman burn in the lust one towards another, men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain Elohim in their knowledge, Elohim gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled in all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of Elohim, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of Elohim, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, and not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. And man must pay a price for his iniquity. Side effects include new allergies could be created. Known allergies could be transferred from traditional food to genetically modified food. Antibiotic resistance may develop. The effectiveness of antibodies could be reduced. Crossbreeding with surrounding vegetation, including weeds. Thus, weeds could develop resistance to herbicides, and this would result in the use of more herbicides, which could lead to soil and water contamination, biodiversity, and cross-contamination. So ask yourself, do the pros outweigh the cons? Is this modern-day technology or just plain old sin? Isaiah chapter 59, verse 6 reads, their webs shall not become as garments, neither shall they cover themselves in their works. Their works are works of iniquity. The first genetically modified monkey was born in Oregon, along with the excuse that this would lead to the research of and cure of diseases such as AIDS and Alzheimer's. Born on October 2nd, 2000, the monkey Andy, upon for inserted DNA, is said to be normal by his creators. Scientists intentionally inserted a gene for fluorescence into Andy's embryo to distinguish him from other monkeys, as reported by the International Financial Times. Andy does not glow yet, although the DNA is still there in all the cells of his body. Scientists appear to be disappointed. For some reason, the DNA has not activated itself. And what evil will occur if it does? Because a monkey's DNA is 98% similar to that of humans, scientists have had a difficult time altering the monkey's DNA. According to science, human DNA, like monkeys, are programmed to prevent changes. Yet why is that surprising to man? Because after Yahweh created the first, there was no need for a second creation. Yahweh is omnipotent. He knows the evil thoughts of man before their sins occur. In the March 3rd, 2001 issues of Reuters International Science News, U.S. researchers announced that they had produced laboratory mice with human brain cells, again defending their vanity on the agenda of curing disease, which they have spread through experimentation. A professor at Stanford University said that the next step could be to produce mice made up almost entirely of human brain cells, having grown already a human ear on the back of a rat. There is talk among scientists of implanting a cow's egg into a rat, even the implantation of human sperm into rats and sperms of animals into humans. But it doesn't end there. When it comes to humans, we can plainly see that man does not think twice about how the Most High created man, and that as hereditary traits have been reduced to options that one can choose to live or without, the many plagues that Yahweh have put on us, on this world, has also been magnified. Just take a look beneath the surface. Have man forgot that out of the whole world, that the only thing that Adam was not given dominion over was man. Yet today, we have doctors that now specialize in altering the human DNA, who are even glorified by Lucifer on primetime TV. Just watch the next episode of Nip Tuck or I Want to Fake. First plastic surgery, then liposuction, and next, who knows what. What else will manifest from the minds of man, and he continues to walk after the imagination of his evil heart. But Yah, the Most High, will not sit at peace forever. Vanity of vanity, all is vanity. May Yahweh have mercy on us for all of the abominations of this world. From within out of the hearts of men proceed evil thoughts, adulterers, fornication, murderers, theft, covetousness, pride, wickedness, deceit, and evil eye, the viciousness, blasphemy, foolishness, and all evil things come from within. Mark chapter 7, verse 21 through 23. There are so many experimentations with Yah creation, including the altering muscle structure of mice to make them disease resistant, that Australian scientists have inadvertently discovered the process to make biological weapons deadly by inserting a gene affecting the immunity in the mousepox virus, a virus of mice and rats. They have turned a harmless virus into a killer. This is the path of darkness. And as for them whose heart walketh after the heart of their detestable things and their abominations, I will compense their way upon their own head. Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 21. So let us remember, Yah brings forth the increase, not man. And after the Most High created heaven and the earth and all that is in them, he saw that things were good in his eyes. Thus there was no need for a second creation. And stay tuned for the second part of our program. Many people feel that the cloning of human beings is a subject fraught with ethical and moral controversy. If the cloning could ensure the infinite replication of a specific genetic trait, a judgment would need to be made as to which traits are desirable and therefore worthy of perpetuation. The person with the power to exercise such judgment would be in a position to change the course of human development. But Yahweh's word cannot lie. He is the giver of life, not man. Moreover, Lucifer will not be the prince of this earth forever, for even he had to obey the Most High Yahweh. Cloning is defined by the New Encyclopedia Britannica, Volume 3, verse 15th edition, as a population of genetically modified identical organisms that are derived originally from one single individual organism by asexual methods. The possibility of human cloning was raised when Scottish scientists at Rosalind Institute created the sheep dolly. It aroused worldwide interest and concern because of its scientific and ethical implications. The feat also generated uncertainty over the meaning of cloning, an umbrella term traditionally used by scientists to describe the different processes for duplicating biological material. According to the Human Genome Project of Information, when the media reports on cloning in the news, they are usually talking about only one type of cloning called reproductive cloning. Yet there are 3 different types of cloning, which include recombinant DNA technology, or DNA cloning, reproductive cloning, and therapeutic cloning. The terms recombinant DNA technology, DNA cloning, molecular cloning, or gene cloning all refer to the same process: the transfer of DNA fragment of interest from one organism to a self-replicating genetic element such as a bacterial plasmid. Plasmid are self-replicating extrachromosomal circular DNA molecules distinct from normal bacterial genome. The DNA of interest can then be propagated into a foreign host cell. This technology has been around since the 70s, and it has become a common practice in molecular biology labs today. Scientists studying a particular gene often use bacterial plasmids to generate multiple copies of the same gene. Plasmids and other types of cloning vectors are currently being used by researchers to copy genes and other pieces of chromosomes to generate enough identical material for further study. But after Yahweh created the first, there was no need for a new creation. Nay, but oh man, who are you that replies against Elohim, saying the thing, shall the thing that formed say to him that formed it, why has you made me dust? Have not the power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor? Romans chapter 9, verses 21 through 22. Yet man and the imagination of his wicked heart has rejected Yahweh since the creation. As a result, modern science is viewed today as a luxury for the elite. But in actuality, it is nothing more than the foundation of our present-day Sodom and Gomorrah, and we all know what happened to the first. Then there is reproductive cloning. This method is used to generate an animal that has the same nuclear DNA as another currently or previously existing animal. Dolly was created by reproductive cloning technology in a process called somatic cell nuclear transfer, which is when scientists transfer genetic material from the nucleus of a donor adult cell to an egg, and as a result, the genetic material is removed. The reconstructed egg containing the DNA from the donor cell must then be treated with chemicals or electric current in order to stimulate cell division. Once the clone embryo reaches a suitable stage, it is transferred to the uterus of a female host where it continues to develop until birth. Subsequently, it is then not as the Most High intended for it to be, and thus it becomes a new creation, something not of Yahweh. And if it is not of Yah, it must be of the adversary of the devil. Scientists go further to say Dolly or any other animal created using nuclear transfer technology is not truly an identical clone of the donor animal. Only the clone's chromosomal or nuclear DNA is the same as the donor. Thus, some of the clone's genetic material comes from the mitochondria in the cytoplasm of the enucleated egg. Mitochondria, which are organelles that serve as power sources in the cell, contain their own short segments of DNA, and acquired mutations in the mitochondria DNA are believed to play an important role in the aging process. They continue by saying Dolly's success is truly remarkable because it proves that genetic material from a specialized adult cell could be reprogrammed to generate an entire new organism. Before this demonstration, scientists believed that once the cell became specialized as a liver, heart, bone, or any other type of cell, the change was permanent and other unneeded genes in the cell would become inactive. Some scientists believe that errors in the incompleteness in the reprogramming process cause the high rates of death, deformity, disability observed among animal clones. Scientists have been cloning animals for many years. In 1952, the first animal, a tadpole, was cloned. Before the creation of Dolly, the first mammal cloned from the cell of an adult animal was cloned from embryonic cells. Since Dolly, researchers have cloned a number of large and small animals, including sheep, goats, cows, mice, pigs, cats, rabbits, and a goth. Hundreds of cloned animals exist today, but the number of different species is limited. Attempts at cloning certain species, such as monkeys, chickens, horses, and dogs, have been unsuccessful. The process of stripping the nucleus from an egg cell and replacing it with the nucleus of a donor cell is a traumatic one. Some species may be more resistant to somatic cell nuclear transfer than others. They continue by saying if the low success rates can be improved, in which Dolly was only one success out of 276 tries, Reproductive cloning can be used to develop effective ways to reliably reproduce animals with special qualities. For example, animals that have been genetically altered to serve as models for studying human disease could be mass-produced. Further, they say reproductive cloning also could be used to repopulate endangered animals or animals that are difficult to breed. In 2001, the first clone of an endangered wild animal was born, a wild ox called a gaur. The young gaur died from an infection about 48 hours after his birth. Other endangered species that are potential candidates for cloning include the African bongo antelope, the Sumatran tiger, and the giant panda. Cloning extinct animals present a much greater challenge to scientists because the eggs and the surrogate needs to create clone embryos would be of a species different from the clone. Oh, and what a wicked web the adversary has weaved. Yet his reign as prince of this earth will not last forever. Third, we have therapeutic cloning, also called embryo cloning. This is the production of human embryos for use in research. They say that the goal of this process is not to create clone human beings, but rather to harvest stem cells that can be used to study human development and to treat disease. Haven't we heard that one before? They say stem cells are important to biomedical researchers because they can be used to generate virtually any type of specialized cell in the human body. Stem cells are extracted from one egg after it has divided for 5 days. The eggs at this stage of development is called the blast site. The extraction process destroys the embryo, which raises a variety of ethical concerns. Many researchers hope that one day stem cells can be used to serve as replacement cells to treat heart disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, and other diseases. In November 2001, scientists announced that they had cloned the first human embryos for the purpose of advancing therapeutic research. To do this, they collected eggs from women's ovaries and then removed the genetic material from these eggs with a needle that was 2 10,000ths of an inch wide. A skin cell was inserted inside the enucleated egg to serve as a new nucleus. The egg began to divide after it was stimulated with the chemicals. The results were limited in success. This process was carried out with 8 eggs, yet only 3 began dividing, and only 1 was able to divide into 6 cells before stopping. And this is because Yahweh brings forth the increase, not man. And if man could bring forth life, then what would he need the Most High for? Man was created from the dust, and to the dust shall he return. They even feel that therapeutic cloning may someday be used in humans to produce whole organs from single cells, or to produce healthy cells that can replace damaged cells in degenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. And much work is still needed to be done before therapeutic cloning can become a realistic option for the treatment of this order. The imagination of the hearts of men. How far will it take us? Or better yet, how much will it hurt us? Man is the only one of Yah's creations that do not obey his laws. Moreover, scientists hope that one day therapeutic cloning can be used to generate tissues and organs for transplant. To do this, DNA will be extracted from the person in need of a transplant and inserted into a enucleated egg. After the egg containing the patient's DNA starts to divide, the embryonic stem can be transformed into any type of tissue that will be harvested. The stem cells will be used to generate an organ or tissue that is a genetic match to the recipient. In theory, the clone organ could be then transplanted into the patient without the risk of tissue rejection. If organs could be generated from cloned human embryos, the need for organ donation could be significantly reduced. But in conclusion, if man creates a new being that was not of the creation of Yahweh, then it must be of the adversary, the devil, Lucifer, deceiver of the whole world. And Yah's word cannot go void, neither will he turn his back from what he has spoken concerning Lucifer and his children. So turn from your evil ways, O house of Yehudah, and give ear, O house of Israel. Stop following the ways of the nations that we live among. Our redemption is at hand, even right around the corner. Yahweh is the Most High, and His word will stay true. This has been your brother Ye Rick and Hezekiah Ben Israel, taking you beyond the surface of scientists playing God, DNA and cloning. Shalom and hallelujah.
Hi, welcome to the Washington section of our program. Have you considered the things that man is getting off into with genetic engineering and STEM cell research and so forth and so on? When I was coming up, they called it Frankenstein. But today, man is getting off into these things, and the question is man playing God, or is man on the verge of creating his own God? Why not? Man has his idols and his images among us today, and their holidays prove that these things are so. Next question. If man does get off into cloning, who will be cloned? And what is the true ultimate reason for the cloning? When you go back and read the scripture, or either go back in secular history, you find out that when Hitler did genetic research trying to create the perfect German, the world branded Hitler as evil. Yet the US of A gave us Frankenstein and now Dolly and no telling what else they haven't cloned. Even growing human parts on animals for human use. Is man playing God, or is man on the verge of creating his own God? Well, let's go and see what the scripture says about this. This is Revelation 13, and Revelation 13 is talking about the last empire that's going to come up on the earth, which we're experiencing now with the EU that's being set up over in Europe. It's the fallen Holy Roman Empire that fell in 476 AD, and the prophets told us it was going to come back up on the scene just before Christ returns. But let's see if they'll be able to create man or not. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 1. And I stood upon the sands of the sea, and I saw an empire rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. When you get in Revelations 12, and read Revelations 12, you find out that these are the 4 empires that Lucifer brought upon the earth, and these are the symbols of that head with the 7 heads and the 10 horns. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were the feet of a bear, and the mouth was the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Well, according to the prophet Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar with the Babylonian Empire with the Arabs, that was the head, which is the mouth of the lion. And then we had Alexander the Great that conquered the earth in 12 years, swifter than any other man. He was called a leopard. And then the dragon, we know that the dragon gave them his power and his seat and great authority. And these are the nations that have ruled the earth for the last 2,500 years. And the bear, who is Russia, is still among us today. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Rome fell in 476 A.D., and here she is. They're divided among all of the nations except us, the so-called renamed Negro over here in America. They're divided among themselves, and now they're putting this one world governmental system back together. Verse 4 is very interesting. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the empire, and they worshiped the empire, saying, Who is like unto this empire, and who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 3½ years. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, who are the children of Israel, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the life of the Lamb, in the book of the life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man hath an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. I'm quite sure that our fathers was brought over here in captivity in chains. He that killed with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the faith and the patience of the saints. Now, that dealt with political Babylon. Now, let's go and deal with the creation of this new man that man is going to come about. This is verse 11, Revelation 13 and verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Now, this is the church, the Catholic Church, or the Christian Church, allied with this last empire. They try to say there's a separation between church and state, but how can it be when all your senators and your rulers go to church? And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first empire, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he made fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword and did live. That they should make an image to the beast that had the wound by the sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell except him that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. This is the new world order, the revived Holy Roman Empire, the European Union that's being set up by the Christians of the Euro-Gentiles of Europe. This is Lucifer's final empire upon the earth. Today, with billions of people on the earth to be fed, and with so many diseases plaguing all the nations, the medical hype is that scientifically, through the study of nature and of the human body, man can venture into the foundation of creation. Then man could reconstruct and genetically engineer man's needs and his direction, make man immune to disease and aging, make man stronger, faster, better than Yahweh created man, and in the likeness of man's thoughts, and not in the image and likeness of Yahweh, but what man sees fit. But let's go back up into the Genesis and read some things out of the book of Genesis here. Genesis chapter, I want to read something out of Genesis chapter 3, and I'm going to start this at verse 14. This is after Adam had committed his sin. Let's see what Yahweh said that man was going to be able to do. Genesis 3 and verse 14. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon your belly shall you go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. And I will put an adversary between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. And it shall bruise thy head, and you shall bruise his heel. He's talking about the coming of the Messiah now. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow shall you bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. Well, truly, women sure do today bring forth children in sorrow and conception. Verse 17, and unto Adam he said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake. In sorrow shall you eat of it all of your days. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth unto you, And you shall eat of the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread till you return into the ground. For out of it you was taken, for dust you are, and dust you shall return. Man is going to try to create him a man that will live forever. Verse 20, and Adam called his wife named Eve because she was the mother of all that was that was living. And unto Adam also and to Eve did Yahweh make coats of skin and clothe them. And Yahweh said, behold, the man is become as one of us to know good and to know evil. Now, lest he put forth his hand and take up the tree of the life and live forever. Therefore, Yahweh Elohim sent the man from the garden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim with flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life, so that man cannot live forever, but man wants to create another man that will live forever. Now, I'm going to go into Deuteronomy chapter 32, and I'm going to read some things that Moses said in the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 32, and I'm going to start this at Deuteronomy 32 and verse 39. It says, see now, that I, even I, am he, and there's no Elohim with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand into heaven and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering sword, and mine eyes take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies, and will reward them that hate me. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of the revenges upon the enemy. Rejoice, O you nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversary, and will be merciful to his land and to his people. But like he said in verse 39, he says, see now that I, even I am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal, neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. Now consider this. All of the bad things that come upon the earth is Yahweh's wrath upon man because of his evil deeds. And when we look upon the earth, sin, so-called crime, has been perpetuated through all of the societies upon the earth today. So man feels that through science, man can do a better job than Yahweh did. They took prayer out of school, and they teach evolution instead of the creation in Yahweh's word. They threw the Ten Commandments out of their judicial system, and negating removing the word God from all governmental funded institutions. Plus, the euro is becoming the standard currency of the world, and English is being accepted as the language of the world, and they all worship Lucifer. Let me read something to you out of Thessalonians. This is in the book of some things that Paul had to say that was going to take place that people they really don't pay too much attention to, because I don't know what people are looking for in Scripture, but it has nothing to do with the Word of God. What people are looking for is something to make them feel good, but Yahweh is bringing about a change upon this earth, and he's doing it very swiftly, and we have to know of these things that Yahweh is going to bring upon the earth. Now this is in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and I'm going to pick this up at verse 1. Paul says, now I beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Adonai Yahshua HaMashiach, and by the gathering together unto him, that you be not soon shaken in mind, nor troubled, whether by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of the Messiah is at hand. A lot of people say, well, the Messiah can come any day, but he can't. The Messiah cannot come until certain prophecies are fulfilled. Verse 3, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day should not come except there be a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember you not that when I was with you I told you these things, and now you know what beholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity does already work. Only he who now will let until he be taken out of the way. In other words, the Holy Ghost is making sure that this thing is happening until the Holy Ghost be taken out of the way. And once that happens, our people, the 12 tribes of Israel, are going to have more problems than we could ever imagine upon the face of the earth, because Satan is going to try to kill us off, to try to make God a lie. Why? Because we are Yahweh's chosen people, and all the prophets say that the Messiah is coming to save us out of this captivity. And we haven't got in the power to save ourselves, so the Messiah is going to have to do it. Verse 8, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Adonai shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him, whose coming is after workings of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And this is what this last empire is going to do. We just read that they're going to cause the whole world to worship a man that has been created by man in the laboratories after man's own image and after man's own likeness. Verse 11, and for this cause Yahweh shall send them the spirit of strong delusion, that they shall believe the lie, that they might be all damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. This is the religious arm of Lucifer's final empire and the last pope that they're going to elect. This false prophet of the empire will give the authorities to give life unto this man-made man created in laboratories, and through war will cause all the people of the earth to worship that God that man has so-called created. These will make war with my Lord at his return to redeem us, the Hebrew Israel, his chosen people, out of captivity. This is what the whole thing is all about. It's all about the children of Israel, our chosen people. And when we look upon the earth today, we can very well see that just as the prophets have said, we are on the bottom of the pile, and we are we are the ones that's going to be ostracized and cast out to the earth. And the Messiah already told us that these things was going to take place here in St. Matthew 24th chapter. Now, what had happened was the Messiah and the apostles were together, and let me read it. This is St. Matthew 24 and verse 1. And it said, and Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the building of the temple. And Yeshua said unto him, see you not all these things? Yes, I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall be thrown down. Well, if that's the case, the place that they got over there in Israel that they call the Temple Mount is not the Temple Mount, which in actuality it's not if you do the research on it. Verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of this age? And Yeshua answered said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed one, and shall deceive many. Well, when you get in the book of Revelations 6th chapter, when the sixth seal is opened, the heavens rolled back like a scroll and so forth, and but the Messiah didn't come then. This is around the same time that they are going to anoint this man as king and set him up as the Messiah on this earth. Verse 6, and you shall hear wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet come. For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in different places. All these are the beginning of your sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up. Pay attention to this now. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Who moves in our neighborhood? Huh? Who moves in our neighborhood? We are hated of all nations today, and we know that we are being replaced with Hispanic as the system of things is putting the economic rug out from under this 90% of our people in this country here. Verse 10. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. We can't get together and buy a bag of potato chips. And many false prophets shall arise, and shall deceive many. Well, let's look at that. Today, when we look at what's going on the earth today, all of the religions that we practice, we got from other people. We got Christianity from our captives, the Gentiles, and we got excuse me, we got Arabic from Islam, rather, from the Arabs. And when we check back in history, the Arabs had us in captivity in 606 BC, and they had their hand in the slave trade also. Verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Why? Because Yahweh has sent us the spirit of strong delusion, and sin is called crime, is running rampant among our people. But he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. And the gospel of this kingdom shall be preached unto all the world for a witness to all nations, and then shall the end come. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoke of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso read, let him understand. Now, when this last pope, according to the book of Revelation, St. Peter's Basilica is going to be destroyed because they got too many different religions on this earth, and they're going to have to bring them under one head in order to cause all the nations to have one religion. So Daniel told you that this false prophet that was going to come out of Europe was going to go into Jerusalem and sit in that temple in Jerusalem just before the Messiah returned, saying that he is God. Verse 15. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him which be on the housetops come not down to take anything out of the house. Neither let him which is in the field turn back to take his clothes. And woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray you that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, which such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then, if any man say unto you, here is the Messiah, lo, there's the Messiah, believe it not. So, by Christ warning us of these things, we know that one thing, there is going to be a man that's going to be upon the earth that people are going to be worshiping as the Messiah. Verse 24. And there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and great wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, don't go there. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning coming out of the east and shineth to the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. He's talking about at the war of Armageddon. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And there shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with the great sign